Hey guys, thank you for joining us on a gentle trip. I want to start today's episode off with a big thank you and shout out to Amcrest. They supplied us with the cameras for this episode. They're great. They look great. You see it. It's what they are. And I want to introduce my guest, Ali Ashbrook.
Hi, everybody.
And I see you brought a gift.
I did. Today I brought my favorite kind of whiskey, and it's a Screwball peanut butter whiskey.
Always
Oh,
wanted
wow.
to try it.
Yeah, it's really smooth and delicious. And do you guys want to try some?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Did this stuff like just come out a few years ago?
I'm not for sure. I tried it for the first time a year ago.
I've always wanted to
So-
try it because I've seen it around, but I never have.
We really appreciate it, by the way.
Heck yeah. You're welcome.
By the way, listeners, if you ever do become a person that we have on the podcast, we would love for you to bring us interesting alcohol.
Make it a little more interesting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Salute.
Oh boy. I can never finish. Woo!
Wow.
I can definitely taste the peanut butter.
Yeah, that's actually
Towards
delicious.
the end there, yeah. That's awesome. I really like that.
So go ahead and let's start off today, Ali, with so what do you do for work right now?
Right now, I am a hairstylist in Columbus, Indiana.
And you have your cosmetology license.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where'd you get that at?
So in 2016, I started Aveda Fredericks Institute in Castleton, Indianapolis,
Wow.
Indiana.
Okay.
So that lasted about a year, give or take. And then I graduated that and started professionally doing hair, and I've been like really interested in hair pretty much all my life, but decided to give it a try, and I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you went to college prior to getting your cosmetology license, right?
Yes, I did. So I graduated high school back in 2013, and I graduated from Hauser High School whenever I was about a freshman in high school. I was getting really involved in my youth group and my church, and my senior year of high school, I hadn't decided what I wanted to do, and I read this book called Kisses from Katie, and it's about this girl it's a true story, and it's kind of written out like a diary, but she, whenever she was 18, she up and leaves the U.S. and goes to Africa and becomes a full-time missionary, and she started this program called Amazima Ministries, and she's been there ever since. And so that was kind of my inspiration to go to Bible college. And I had decided that I wanted to become a full-time ministry in Africa too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my senior year, I heard of a school through my church called Master's Commission of Atlanta, and that was in Atlanta, Georgia. And there's a lot of different Master's Commission all throughout the world, but a lot in the U.S. And so I went and checked it out, and I loved it. I fell in love. They do this thing called Experience Days every year, and that just allows people from the outside community of the school to come in and check it out and see if they want to attend or not, and I was all about it. So I signed up, got accepted, and then in fall of 2014, I started what they changed the name to Atlanta Leadership College, but so it was a Master's Commission, and then right when I started, they got a new leader of the whole thing and changed the name to Atlanta Leadership College.
Okay. And so you got accepted, you started going.
Yeah. So I didn't honestly know a whole lot about this school. I knew one girl who went there, and I really liked this girl, and I was like, well, if all else fails, like, I'll have her to hang out with. But so before you go to the school, first of all, what I want to say before I talk about any of this is that this is just my story about this school, and there are so many other people out there right now. Hundreds of students have went to this school that have their own personal stories that are traumatic and scarring. There's not really a word for it, but so basically, like, this school ended up being a cult, and you go into this school not knowing any of the rules, and I mean, there's restrictions. So I'm just trying to gather it all in my head real quick.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I do have a question. So,
Yeah.
in order to get accepted to the school, did you have to be recognized by a church or?
You had to fill out a questionnaire and a letter and get recommendations from your own pastor and your own youth pastor.
Oh, okay, so you did have to be recognized
You
by
had to be a
church.
Christian.
Okay.
Yeah. So all that went pretty smoothly for me because I was already very, very active in my church. So I arrived to Atlanta Leadership College for my first year. So instead of saying like freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, we say first year, second year, third year, fourth year. And after fourth year, you're done. And what the school provided was an opportunity to become pastor, a youth pastor, worship minister, children's ministry, all sorts of different things. But so I go into my first year not really knowing anyone or anything about the school at all. I'm just going out on a leap of faith because I just think that this is what I'm destined to do, and I'm determined to go to Africa. So
Who doesn't want to go to Africa?
yeah, God bless the rain. So I get there, and my first year overall was really good. They did have some kind of pretty strict rules, like you can't talk to the opposite sex for the entire school year as a first year. So I went 9 plus months without talking to a boy, unless if it was ministry related.
It's the most craziest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. So at that time in my life, like, I didn't care. Like, my one purpose was focused on God and Africa.
Yeah.
All the little orphans. And it's so funny because, well, I'll say this later, but so a couple of the other rules were consequences were probation. Probation is a thing where it's held every Saturday morning, and at like 6 in the morning you have to go to the church, and they make you do tedious, long, pointless tasks like fold the same pile of laundry over and over and over and over again in a time limit, and write a 7-page essay in 15 minutes about one topic.
Believe it or not, when I was in boot camp, we did that as a punishment, folding the same laundry over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, a lot of these things that this school did, a lot of people have told me that it reminds them of boot camp.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I did not sign up for boot camp at all. Like, the military is not for me at all.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm a little sissy. So, like I said, my first year went pretty well. It had the typical rules like curfew, and you can't watch rated R movies. Also, you're assigned a AC family, which is an accountability family, and you get a mom and a dad and a sister and a brother, multiple. So my first year I had 2 moms and 1 dad, and some of them like really expect you to call them mom and dad. But it's weird because like one of my moms was the same age as me, and I just didn't feel right about that. And
Sorry to cut off. Where was the school at?
it was in Atlanta,
Okay,
Georgia.
okay.
About 30 minutes north of downtown Atlanta. So
Okay.
So Atlanta Dream Center was run. So I'm not gonna say any names. I'm just gonna say the name of the school.
That's
okay.
Of course. Yeah.
So my school was based out of Victory World Church in Norcross, Georgia,
Okay.
which is a mega church, and it's pretty well known in Atlanta. But that also attracted a lot of people
Because
to
of the
come
mega
to.
church.
Yeah, just like the, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hype, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, the hype.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was their main focus, just being a mega church, that they were more focused on how many people came than how many people they really saved. So
I feel like that's where everybody gets lost in fellowship, you know. I feel like a lot of times
yeah, and before this
a lot of religions do that.
before this point, I had full faith in the church. Like, I would die for it. And I had never been hurt by the church before, so I wish I would have known all the things that I did after I finished the school before I went into it, because maybe my life would be a little bit different right now. So, where did I leave off?
You had attended your first year.
Yeah.
They paired you up with
Oh,
the
yeah.
We were talking
accountability
about the
family.
mom, the moms and the
Okay.
dads and all that, which is just.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is absolutely insane to me. Because just to kind of forefront, Seth was telling me about all this the other day, because you never really told me the full story.
Yeah, and you didn't read it either. Did
No,
you?
no,
Okay.
no. So, and I remember, like, when I first met you, hearing some weird stuff about this, but I didn't really know. So I was talking on the phone with Seth yesterday, and he said, Allie's going to come on. She's going to tell her story about this school. And he started telling me, and I'm like, this shit sounds like it's out of a movie.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So.
And I apologize if I do get a little flustered at
No,
times,
no, no.
because it is a difficult topic
Completely
to talk about.
understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when it comes to something like your faith, and then that's,
Yeah.
as humans, we kind of give everything we have to faith or whatever, no
Yeah.
matter what your faith is.
Absolutely.
And
Especially with this opportunity, I really want to take this chance to not just speak for myself, but for the other students that had to endure way more worse than I had to.
For sure.
So, your first year, you get the AC family, and under the new direction of this new lady, things kind of changed a little bit. Rules did a little bit more stricter, but I handled it well. I absolutely loved my first year. I ended up getting picked to go on a mission trip to Africa, Uganda, Africa.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I spent about 2 weeks there, and that's a whole nother story in itself that we can talk about a little bit.
we'll get into that one, yeah.
Okay. So things kind of started to change when my second year started. And to be a second year, you have to be asked back to go to the school. You can't just apply and get accepted. Like, you have to have a meeting with all the staff members and get asked back. So
How many people went to this school?
it was a total about 120.
Okay, so it was a really small.
Very small. We called it the ALC bubble, Atlanta Leadership College, ALC.
Okay.
So
So I guess that's kind of how they got away with all of this. Is it was such a small school.
they controlled every aspect of our life, from the time we woke up to the time we went to bed.
Okay.
We had a plan, like a schedule, every single day.
Okay. So your second year.
So my second year, and I will admit that the summer after my first year, I kind of trailed off a little bit, I had started hanging out with some friends from high school a little bit, and one of the girls actually from my first year came back she's from Massachusetts, and her name's Tori, and she came back with me to Indiana for that first year.
Oh, wow.
Out for our summer break. The only bad thing was I got accepted back for a second year and she didn't. And all these years I've always thought that she deserved that place more than me. And I never understood why I got accepted back and she didn't, because she was so dedicated to that school.
So how did they determine if you get to come back for a second year? What's the criteria for that?
So you have to do an interview with the staff,
Okay.
and you sit in a room, and I would say there's probably about total of 20-ish staff members, and they all sit in like a big line, and you're sitting right in front of them, and they tell you what you did good and what you did bad that year, and
Wow.
what's gonna accept you back for a second year.
So kind of they might have had a little bit of like a addiction to power kind of God complex there where
Absolutely.
they got to be the judges.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
I ended up, my whole main goal of going to this school was getting more in depth with the Bible, knowing that if I'm really going to do this, go to Africa or a different country and become a full-time missionary, I wanted to know my stuff. And
For
I
sure.
wanted to know what I was going to be preaching to people,
Correct.
and not just guessing. And that was my main goal. But everything that we got wrapped up in there, I had no idea that it was going to be like that. So they do the interviews, and like I said, they tell you what you did good, what you did bad, and almost everybody walks out of the interview crying, boys and girls. And so I got accepted back. My friend Tori, who was coming home with me for the summer, did not get accepted back. But she was okay with it, like at first she was upset, but over the summer, like, we both got different jobs, and I kind of slacked off a little bit. I partied a little bit with some old friends, and I was very guilty. I felt very guilty of doing that, and I didn't quite know what to do about it because I had been surrounded in this tiny little bubble of, I don't know how to explain it, control. Brainwashed.
Control and people who are following along with you.
Yes.
And I feel like,
Yeah.
kind of go with the flow, the mob mentality. Everybody's doing it.
Yes.
So
yep.
it's okay.
Yeah. So I was just my soul was very weak, and it's like you're in that environment, and it's like having a broken leg. Like your leg's in a cast for so long, and it's secure and safe. And then the day that you get that cast taken off, you're just wobbly, and you're like really careful on walking on that. And that's what it was like for me going into summer break. I was wobbly in not necessarily my faith, but in my decision making.
How to act in society again.
I was just 19 years old, so all my friends were doing this. I didn't want to be the loser at home just reading my Bible, I wanted to catch up with my friends who I grew up with.
Oh, for sure. I understand that from being in boot camp. It's the
Yeah.
same thing
And
because they
nobody-
control every aspect of us and teach you how to walk and how to speak. And you get
Yeah.
out and you use words that people don't understand, and you carry yourself a little differently, and people do things in just fun, make a joke, and you don't understand why they do that.
Yeah.
And I understand the brainwashing behind that.
Yeah. So I go back for my second year. Tori goes home, and that's when things started to really change. I was put in an apartment with some really awesome girls, but it was an uncomfortable situation for me. I couldn't really, all the friends that I genuinely made my first year, none of them got accepted back for a second year. And now I have all these responsibilities. Now I'm to be the accountability mom, and I am to now have 2 new husbands and 4 kids. And so you come back
Wow.
immediately, and they do a second year retreat, and this is before all the first year arrives. I'm really nervous at this point, and I'm second guessing in my head, like, is this really what I want to be doing right now? Like, should I have came back for a second year? Well, if I didn't come back for a second year, what the heck else am I going to do, I already made up my mind that I wanted to be a missionary, and I was just like on the very edge of losing that dream, So I still strive for it, and at the beginning of this retreat, they gather you in a room, and it's fun. You finally get to talk to the other guys, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is kind of cool. But like, it's kind of weird because you still feel like the staff members are, like, hovering over you, making sure you're not talking to a boy. They make you sign
Casting their judgment.
Yeah, so they tell us that this year is going to be a lot more challenging than your first year, and through this second year retreat, we're going to experience some events that may make us question the school, and they make you sign a liability form.
Wow.
And
How do they make you sign a liability form when you're underage?
I don't think
it was college.
They just made you sign some kind of a form. I don't know if it was a liability. I'm guessing it was a liability form,
But even if you're in college, because how old did you say you were?
right now
You were So you were 19 at first. Okay.
Yeah.
So you would have been okay.
Yeah.
So, but what about? So were the first year people there for this retreat?
No, this
No.
is the second year retreat before the new first years
Okay.
arrive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Then.
Yeah, so we had about a week before the new first years got
I
there to
see.
prepare for
I see.
everything. So for the second year retreat, like at first it started off fun. They make you sign this paper that you are really dedicated to your second year. And basically anyone who didn't sign the paper had to be sent home.
Oh, wow.
So with the school you can be sent home for just about anything, not being able to.
Sent home as in you're done with the
Yes,
school.
absolutely.
Completely.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you get caught having a secret relationship as a first year with another boy, you'll get kicked out. There's just so many that I can't quite touch base on because I don't remember all of them. But so one of the first things they start you off at second year retreat doing is being assigned your husbands and wives.
Assigned?
Yeah. So you don't get to pick your classmate that you want to be your husband, So I got 2 husbands, and they did a real ceremony for us to be married.
And these are with guys that you had maybe spoken. Had you even spoken to them, or because you said once you got there in your second year?
No, I never actually spoke to them in person
until you were at this marriage ceremony.
Yes,
and
it was incredibly awkward. We all felt the same way. Like at first, you're like, "What the heck is going on?" But okay, I guess I'm gonna flow with it because everybody else is doing it, and they've done it for years and years and years. So, we do the little ceremony, and then that night, the leader of the second year girls, there's about 15, 20-ish of us second year girls. The director over the girls, which was one of the staff members, sat us all down and warned us that we were going to be doing something throughout the rest of the night that, again, might make us question the school, and she was really nervous to even get us started with it, but we were like, whatever, we'll do it. We don't care. So they blindfolded us, and they put us on a bus, and they explained the rules. While we were on the bus, they explained the rules that we're going to be going out into the middle of the woods somewhere, and there was going to be a rope, and we all had to stand in a single file line and hold on to the rope. And so we're on the bus, and they blindfold us, and I don't know, I don't remember which girl was sitting by me on the bus, but we're just like squeezing each other's hands like, this is nothing like our first year. What the heck is happening? Like, everything is changing all of a sudden. Like, who decided this is going to happen? Like, none of the second years before had to do this. So they take us out into the middle of the woods, and we're walking and walking and walking and walking for hours in the middle of the night. I mean, we probably left where we were at 10 p.m., and I think after everything was done, it was around 3 or 4 in the morning. We walked through these woods. One at a time, the staff members would take a girl away from the rope, and they would like remind us to feel and check to see if the girl in front of us is still there. And so every so often the girl wouldn't be there in front of somebody, and we'd be screaming out and yelling for her like, "Where'd you go?" And so each girl they would take had to do a different task. So whenever I eventually got pulled off the rope, they took me away from the rest of the group and they made me dig a hole with a shovel. And I was so confused because at this point I'm just tired.
And you're still blindfolded?
No, at this point they unblindfold you to
Okay.
do the task.
Okay.
Besides, I don't think they did it to every girl, but for me to dig the hole, I had to be unblindfolded.
Okay.
And it was a hole that had already been dug up and buried again because they had buried like a fake bouquet of flowers, and it was supposed to represent me during the summer and the growth that I would have made with Christ on my own. And well, the point of it being was they wanted me to confess every sin I did over summertime. And I told them, I was like, yeah, I partied, I drank a little bit, and I'm sorry. And I think I honestly just cried fake tears just to like get them off my back a little bit. Like, okay, you did your thing with me, now just let me go back with the other girls. Some of the girls I know had to carry buckets of waters on a pole over their shoulders until they couldn't walk anymore and until they were literally collapsing. And I think they're the ones who had to stay blindfolded. And they wanted us to cheer them on, like, cheer your sister on. It's a sisterhood.
So could you see those girls?
No.
Or you were blindfolded for that part?
Yeah, I was blindfolded for that part.
Did they tell you what was going on?
Yeah. Afterwards, they told, we all kind of talked to each other, like, what happened to you whenever you got pulled off the rope. And mine was not that traumatic. But afterwards, after everybody did their own personal task, carrying the buckets of water, digging holes, they brought us to this nasty little pond with a old rundown deck, and they had us all sit on the deck, and there was one girl in particular who they thought was bullied our first year, and this girl, sweet girl, and we got along really well. And the thing about this school is they want you to get along with everybody. You have to be friends with everyone. And that's just not going to happen whenever you're 18, 19, 20 years old. You're not going to get along with every single person.
Right.
Everybody comes from different backgrounds, and nobody's raised the same. And so they made every single girl that they thought bullied this in particular girl, they made them push her off the edge of the deck into the water over and over and over again. And it was so heartbreaking because everybody was sobbing tears at this point. Like, why are you guys doing this to us? I'm like, what is happening? And I've talked to that girl since, and she was like, that made me feel even worse. That made me feel embarrassed.
Oh, I would guarantee it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would believe that that's inhumane.
Yeah.
That you're kind of
It's humiliating.
diminishing somebody's human emotions. I mean.
Yeah. So at that point, it was about 3 a.m. at that point, and we kind of wrapped it up. And if anything else happened throughout that night, I had just shoved it out of my head because I didn't want to remember that night at all. And I know the boys, I have heard stories from the boys' side. They had to do their own separate thing. I know one guy almost drowned that night because they made them go out into the pond and try to do something in the water. And one of the guys couldn't swim, and they were also blindfolded. He was trying to swim while being blindfolded and didn't know how to swim.
Wow.
Almost drowned. And they just, they just shake it off and act like it's no big deal.
And the staff led this? The staff led these events that night?
Yes, and they were all under the decision of the director of the school. Like I said before, the master's commission before, they weren't doing this. But when they got this new director, that's whenever.
So was the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Was the new director was this new director, did they come from another school, or were they like fresh to just starting teaching a school, or?
Yes, actually, it's a female director, and she is on the board of the Assemblies of God ministry, and that is in the process. A lot of us students are in the process of trying to get her off of that board because she is still on it. After everything that has happened, all the stories that have come out, people who have spoken up.
So she had been doing this for probably years.
Yes, and she,
Okay.
side note, she also runs this organization called the Cadre, and the Cadre is like a youth pastor's retreat. And once a month, she lives in like this big, nice, fancy house, and once a month she would have these youth pastors from across the world come into her house, and the students would be required to sacrifice our beds in our apartments to these youth pastors. So once a month we had to give up our beds and stay with a roommate while some strange man gets to sleep in your bed that you're paying for, a part of your tuition. You know, like about 3 different days out of the month you have to give that up.
So
And we were put on a rotation.
So what was tuition like for a school like this? I mean, maybe an estimate.
About for a year it was about a little over $7,000, and that included your online schoolwork, your apartment, and a what do they call it? A food stipend.
Wow. So
Yeah.
they make students pay $7,000 a year, bring them there, break them down, dehumanize them.
Yes.
So, I mean, compared to a lot of like your big schools nowadays, that's fairly affordable.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I was very attracted to it,
Right.
because
Of
I knew
course.
I wasn't going to break a sweat with my parents, and we were going to be able to work it out.
So it almost seems like they're luring people into this school that, maybe can't afford to go to a big, nice school like IU or something else around
Yeah,
here.
and they especially favor the kids that can pay full.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because there were a lot of students that struggled, and I know one kid got kicked out of the school because he dressed up like a homeless person, went out to the street and, on the side of the road and collected money, and he raised enough money to pay for that month's part of the tuition, and
Wow.
they wouldn't accept it. They kicked him out.
I mean,
That's very
you got to respect the hustle.
I
you
know.
yeah, I
I
know.
know.
That's
Somebody
hustle.
who's
That's a
that
hustle right
dedicated to
there.
their faith and that
Yeah.
dedicated to God, and
Yeah, if
they went out and did that.
They wanted
and
to be at that school so bad they were willing to go out and do that. What's the difference of sending out support letters to your friends and family?
For sure.
That was
Did
pretty
you
much-
actually take class? I mean, were there actual classes at this college?
Yeah, so like our main classes was based out of West Coast Bible College online, and that's where you can get different degrees, pastoral degrees. And since that wasn't my goal, like I wasn't very focused on getting a degree. I just wanted to be a missionary and know my stuff. But
Spread the word.
so back to my story of
Okay.
everything being crazy and changing. The first years arrive, and now I am an AC mom, and I have to be accountable for multiple students whenever I'm still trying to learn how to be accountable for my own self. And there were a lot of younger girls looking up to me, and I felt just really pressured, and none of my friends got asked back for a second year, so I was really lonely. I didn't know who to reach out to, and just things started changing, and I felt a lot of pressure, but I was still trying to make it work. And then all of a sudden, word starts spreading around about something called Hell Week happening, and I'm like, what's Hell Week? Well, Hell Week is something that a lot of these schools, Bible colleges, do. And I'm not talking about universities, Bible universities. These are like little schools like this, and there's multiple of them. Some of them is YWAM, Youth with a Mission, IHOP, International House of Prayer, Master's Commissions, and I think one of the biggest ones is probably Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry out in California, and which famous people have been to. So we're hearing about Hell Week, and some of the staff members who went to a master's commission is like telling their experiences with Hell Week, and they were like it was the worst thing ever. But they changed the name of Hell Week to Challenge by Choice, and it did end up happening. So they warn you about this. They give you like a list of Bible verses to memorize, and they tell you that at any moment the staff members could be knocking on your apartment door and taking you immediately away to Hell Week and Challenge by Choice. So you had to have like a to-go bag ready to go, just to grab and go, because they're not going to let you sit and pack your stuff.
So what did you put in that to-go bag? I mean, like toothpaste.
There was a list of stuff that we had.
Oh, they provided a list.
Yeah, like you could only bring like one pair of pants, one extra shirt, 2 pairs of socks, underwear,
Good Lord.
and a toothbrush, I think. That was it. Absolutely it. So the day came around and we hear boom, 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 boom on our door. Come on, let's go, everybody out. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm not ready for this. And so everybody's just scared to death on the bus on the way there. And we have our papers and we're like quickly trying to memorize the rest of the Bible verses that we didn't memorize for some reason that we had to memorize them. So they bring us into this concrete gym in the middle of the woods. And it's just like woods, and a random gym in the middle of the woods. It was a retreat center, but it was also the same place where we had the second year retreat. But I didn't know the gym was there. So right off the bat, they line you up and team you up with groups. And so my group was number 1. And for the rest of the time of this event, you are given a number, and they take your name away, and they put a headband around your forehead and give you your number, and you will get punished if you call one of the staff members or one of the other students by their actual name. You had to call them by their number, and so I was number 101, and they immediately had us start doing like exercise drills, jumping jacks, push-ups, just random stuff. And at this point, it's probably about 9 o'clock at night. And my team wasn't the most athletic team out of the group, so we lost. Like, whoever got done first with their jumping jacks or whatever succeeded in doing it in unison and stuff won a prize. Whoever couldn't do it, if someone in your team couldn't finish doing the jumping jacks, then you had to be punished. So our punishment, my team couldn't finish it all the way. Our punishment was getting our sleeping bags taken away. So we had to sleep on the cold, hard concrete floor. And this was about October at this time. And one person on your team, so like I said, there was probably about 7 to 10 people on a team. And one person on your team is required to be the baby. And so, this is so hard to explain, but in the middle of the night, whenever you're going to bed, sleeping on this concrete floor, everybody's in their sleeping bags besides my team, and they're playing music on the speakers really loud, over and over and over again, the same song, the Barney theme song they played over and over and over again, so high-pitched it hurt your ears. And then randomly, they would play a baby crying, a baby noise, crying. Whenever that happens, you have to get up. Everybody has to get up, and it's time to feed the baby. And the baby on your team has to drink a full bottle of milk out of a baby bottle. And it's another competition. Whoever gets done first wins a prize. Whoever loses has a consequence. So this, like I said, it was called Challenge by Choice. So that meant that at any point, anybody could drop out. They could quit. Whenever that happened, they would have to go up to a staff member, explain to them why they wanted to quit, and stand in front of everybody and then everyone would proceed to say, sound the horn 101, and you have to sound an air horn and just feel humiliated. You know, you couldn't finish out this week like the most athletic people on this team could. And now you have to stand in front of everybody and admit that you aren't physically capable of completing this, so you have to opt out. Well, Hell Week continued on, and they made us do crazy tasks like sit in ice baths until we could recite certain Bible verses. They made us go into the pond they had trivia questions. If we answered the question wrong, we'd have to go submerge ourselves in our clothes in the pond, and then our team would have to immediately go and do an obstacle course over and over and over and over again and roll around in the sand, and so you're just filthy dirty. For breakfast and dinner, you only get fed rice and beans, and you have to eat with your hands.
And this lasted a week. The sleeping on the
I think it was
concrete
about
floor.
5 days. It wasn't a full week. They just called it Hell Week, but it wasn't like full 7 days.
For 5 days though, you slept on the floor in this gym.
I
You
didn't
ate
make
rice
that.
and beans.
Yes, some people made it that far. I didn't make it that far.
Wow.
But one girl even collapsed during the obstacle course over asthma attack, and they just took her out and let everybody proceed on as they were doing. I just couldn't, at that moment, I couldn't believe it. Like, people are really getting hurt during this, and they're still allowing this to continue on, and it was a degrading thing.
A lot of this actually sounds not only like boot camp, but specifically the special forces. A lot of the things that the Navy SEALs go through and everything when
Yeah.
they're in boot camp is a little bit different than what the rest of the people go through in boot camp.
Interesting.
And that's not only they were mentally breaking you down, but with the ice baths, they're actually shocking your body to where your body doesn't know how to react to what's next.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the ice baths are nice for the end of a workout, and you've been working hard for a week, and now you're ready to calm down. So they trick your body into slowing down your heart rate and blood flow, and it tells your body, okay, it's time to slow down and relax. And then right after the ice bath is when they made you do the obstacle course.
We had to do the obstacle course maybe about 20 times a day, so
Wow.
or more.
So yeah, that's definitely.
We went back and forth from. They would make us do these really hard puzzles, or just mind-altering things. Like I have blocked a lot of it out.
Oh, definitely. I think I forgot my whole first week of boot camp.
I'm trying to remember back to this Hell Week, and I'm just seeing glimpses of it, you know. I'm just telling you the glimpses that I remember.
Of course.
So, eventually I get to the point where I am exhausted. I want to just sleep and just relax and take a shower and eat something normal. So I give up, and I'm in tears because I'm embarrassed. I don't want to give up. You know, there's not too many people left, and I thought that I could make it to the end, and I'm going up to one of my staff members, and I tell him, you know, I can't do it anymore. So everybody sounds the horn for me. I go on. Right, following challenge by choice, we go into a retreat, and it's for the youth group based out of the church, and we're all required to be, each of us students are broken off into different mini youth groups, small groups within the church for the youth group. So me and another student in my second year were in charge of about 10 different other high school students. And we were to go to this big retreat with them, and it's really exhausting. You're at the church from maybe 8 a.m. until 2 or 3 p.m. doing your schoolwork, and then that whole time after, you're doing work for the people at the church, preparing for these retreats or preparing for Sunday services, and you're doing things that you're not getting paid for, but these other people are getting paid for. And after the retreat, I started getting really sick, and I think it was from Challenge by Choice, Hell Week. I was so sick, I went to the doctors. I had a fever, a very high fever and a strep throat, and I got on antibiotics that day. I missed one day. And I think, like, technically throughout the whole year, you can only miss like 2 or 3 days without an excuse. So I missed one day, and my teachers are blowing up my phone, asking me where I'm at, why are you not in school? And I'm like, well, I'm really sick. And the next day, they are doing the same thing, and I eventually come in, even though I feel awful. And one of the staff members, she wasn't my teacher, but she was on the staff, so she was in charge of a lot of us. She comes up to me in front of a bunch of other students, and she said, "Oh my God, everybody, the Royal Highness finally decided to show up for school. How about we all bow for her?" And I was just like, my throat was swollen with blisters. I feel awful, and I just start crying. And I'm like, I will prove to you that I'm still really sick. And so I went back to the doctors that day and got on more antibiotics. And at that point, I was like, I pretty much had my mind made up. Like, I needed to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the second year, I was assigned to be the main director of the whole school. I was assigned to be her personal assistant. So in all of my free time, I was doing things for her. I was picking her up from the airport back and forth. I was cleaning her house. I was in charge of Clean Team, which was once a month you go to her house and you have to gather a group of girls, and we have to spend hours cleaning her house from top to bottom, making it spotless, not getting paid $1 for it. It's supposed to make us humble. And in the time, it made me humble. It definitely did make me humble, but
Yeah.
I did not pay for this. I did not sign up for this.
I would say that's maybe a little beyond humbling.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is slave work.
Exactly, yeah.
While the other kids are made to do other things that's an example of the stuff that we were made to do every single day after our classwork.
There's a term for that. I can't remember what it's called, but I know there's a term for that. When we were in the Navy, there was a big thing where if they go by pay grades. So if there's like a lower pay grade, like a seaman comes in, then as a NCO, a non-commissioned officer, you can't ask them to mow your grass. You can't make them wash your car.
Huh.
You cannot do anything like that. I mean, that's guidelines for like non-judicial punishment, which is pretty much you sit in a courtroom, except it's your chain of command judging you instead of 12 jurors and a judge.
Interesting.
It is very interesting. Your story is very interesting.
Yeah, this is some of the craziest shit I've ever heard.
So how did
Really?
you? So you didn't go back a third year, right?
No. So after I got sick, this was about towards the end of October, I went home for Thanksgiving, and then I came back. Things kind of evened out a little bit, and then I went home for Christmas, and I finally decided to tell my parents and my family what was going on, because every time before you go home for a holiday, they would gather you for a meeting. Not only did you have to call your accountability family, mom and dad, but the leader of the school was a female, and everybody called her mom.
Wow.
And she would almost be offended if you didn't call her mom. And so even on our schedules, this time would be, in our schedule would be scheduled mom time, and it would last about 1 or 2 hours, and it would just be her sitting in front of a classroom, all the students together, and we could just do like Q&A back and forth with her the whole time, or she would just address any news about the school. But one thing that they would always address before we went home is to not fully tell our families and our parents what was going on at the school, because we were going so in depth with the Lord and the Bible and Christ that we were at that time more of a Christian than our own families were, and they just wouldn't understand it, and they would probably call us a cult.
Wow.
So
they use that term cult. They use that term in these.
they would joke about it.
Oh.
Almost everybody would joke about the term cult, like, "Oh yeah, we're in a cult."
So a year and a half went by, and you never told your family any of these stories?
No, nothing in depth. I made it seem like the best school ever. Like,
Wow.
Just
But-
imagine the amount of like brainwashing that has to go on for people to endure all this and not say a word to anybody.
yeah, you get to a point where you are there to please the staff members instead of God. You completely forget about your whole focus and
Right.
purpose of God and your relationship with the Lord. And then it's all focused on the staff members. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to disappoint them. You know, I might get kicked out.
That's crazy because you think about all these people who went all the way through it, all of these years that these schools were around. Well, this
Yeah.
school particular was around.
Yeah, most of the
And
staff
they went
members
through it.
were.
So would you say, what was your drive through this school then? It was the whole time you were in the school at State Africa and being
Not
a
tech-
missionary, or did your drive ever change?
My whole drive, the whole time, was on communities and people, hurt, lost people, people who are shunned, and the homeless and the orphans, and that was my main focus throughout the whole time because that's what my heart is biggest for. Or, excuse my English.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You're fine.
Yeah, we don't. I know we
terrible
haven't said
talker.
any yet, but
That was my main purpose, you know. Some weekends we got to work with a school about 30 minutes away from us called the Atlanta Dream Center, and we got to do some outreach within Atlanta. And I had already been familiar with the Atlanta Dream Center through my church back home in Indiana. And on weekends, some weekends, we would get to go out and do outreaches like deliver food to the homeless or get to play with kids in really poor communities at the parks. And that's what I loved most. And also, at this time, whenever I was in Atlanta, Atlanta was the #1 district for refugees in the whole United States of America, and the #1 district for sex trafficking.
wow.
So I've got to go out and literally talk to prostitutes and hug them and let them cry on my shoulder. I've seen pimps standing on the side of the road and the boys getting out and talking to them, and there's just so many things that I could tell about this, about being in Atlanta and what it's like there. It's only 9 hours away from us right now, but it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Especially if you go deep into the depths of the city.
Definitely.
And Atlanta is based, like, it's kind of separated into two different parts. The Bluff or Buckhead. And so the Bluff is the bad part and Buckhead is the rich part. And that's pretty much what separates Atlanta. But I decided to go home for Christmas break and tell my family what was going on. And I made the decision to leave. And they're like, you need to get out of there. We don't care about the tuition. We care about your mental and well-being. And so I go back I take the plane back to Atlanta after Christmas break. And within 2 hours, I had all my stuff packed up in my car ready to go. And somehow the staff members found out that I was planning to leave, and they were all blowing up my phone, and one of them showed up at my apartment, and I talked to her for a little while and explained to her that my time at Atlanta Leadership College has come to an end, and
This was the woman that you were her personal assistant,
No,
right?
no, no.
Oh, okay.
She was just one of the staff members. She
Okay.
was in charge of, like, ahead of all the second-year girls, so she was
Okay.
kind of like a counselor for all of us,
Yeah.
kind of, in a way. she talked me into staying for that last weekend because they were going to have another second-year retreat at the director's house and at her mansion of a house. And so I knew it would expected. Everybody tried to suck up to me because they got word that I was going to leave. And really the only two people I opened up to were my AAC husbands. You know, I went with them separately and I was like, I'm so sorry to ditch you guys like this with these kids now that you're responsible of. But I need to go back home. I need to be with my family. Like, I'm really depressed. I had never experienced depression and anxiety before up until this point, and it got so bad. I just started really developing a lot of unhealthy behaviors with myself.
Yeah.
So I packed up my stuff and I went home, and that was my end of Atlanta Leadership College.
So how did you transition once you were home? Like, how did you?
It was very hard. It was incredibly hard. As soon as I got back home, I got into a very bad relationship, abusive, toxic, unhealthy relationship, and I was in that on and off for about 2 years.
Wow.
And that I kind of revolved my life around that relationship at that point because I didn't know what else to cling on, you know.
Right.
Nobody else wanted to sit down and hear my story because I would try to tell my friends and family members what I experienced at the school, but it would just be like, you know, like.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's so hard to tell somebody.
I think a lot of people
like
don't want to hear something that traumatic. You know,
Well,
a lot of people
I
would
mean,
rather just shut it out instead of hear it.
I mean, I've known you for almost the past year now, and I've never heard all this, but I have to say, after hearing it, I mean, I commend you 10 times more. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, to think that there's stuff in this world out there like this.
Even worse than this.
Even more, yeah. I mean, you know, we live here in this small town that is, in the grand scheme of things, so sheltered from everything.
Yeah.
When you live in a small town, you don't see so much.
Yeah.
But just to hear this and to hear that you went through this, it's absolutely insane. I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie.
It does, and I really respect. I can tell from how much into the story you get that you were a big empath with a big heart.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was your drive a lot of the time through the school.
Yeah.
And that's nice. The world could use a lot more people like you.
Cheers to
Let's
Ali.
cheers.
Cheers to
that, I
Ali.
suppose.
I will cheers to that, guys.
Delicious whiskey, by the way.
I like it. So it is a little spicy at the end, yeah.
You know, I like it. It's like
Got a little
at the
kick.
beginning, at the beginning you got the kick, but then when your mouth really starts to get that flavor at the end,
It leaves a perfect peanut butter taste in your mouth.
It
It's
is.
not like
that's awesome.
I do that anyways, no matter what shot, but
My mouth is buttery. I mean, you can feel it just kind of coat your tongue.
Yeah.
and It's a
It's
nice
delicious.
yeah.
So yeah,
It's definitely worth the $6-ish at a bar that they offer you for.
feeling. Oh, yeah.
At least at the Cozy.
Wow.
it's good stuff, man. I really that's gonna be one of my new faves, I think.
Yeah. And I think you can mix it with a lot of stuff
Oh,
and make
yeah.
it taste
Definitely.
really good.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I do appreciate you bringing that.
is this I'm assuming this school's no longer in operation, right?
Yeah, so just this past February, March-ish, I had been I left Atlanta Leadership College in 2015, and now, 2020, I decide to finally share my story 5.5-ish years later. So back in March, I think it was March, I just decided to type up my whole entire story on Facebook and share it. And so many people instantly started reaching out and wanting to share their story. And they're like, this whole time I thought I was the only one at this school that felt that way, you know, so I've never told a single soul what happened to me there. And I've suffered for years and years now of this abuse that they put us through, and not a single one of us realized that it was abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse. It was these people taking the Lord's name in vain and devil in disguise.
I mean, this kind of stuff right here, this is what ruins faith.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my thing, is how many people went through this so many years and then continued on to a church to teach the word of God, and then to them it's ruined because all they care about is being the servants that they are brainwashed to be, and serving this church and these people. And
Yeah. So still to this day, since I've left Atlanta Leadership College 5 years later, I posted my story. It got a lot of outreach. I still have not been back to church one single time since, but I do still strongly believe in the Lord.
so you do still have your faith. And,
I do.
well, that's
That's
good.
great.
That
That's
is
great.
awesome. And it is great that your parents were so accepting and understanding of everything that was going on and supportive of you getting out of there.
Yeah, I'm very
Because I can
blessed.
only imagine how many parents are, no, we already paid for this. You're going to finish this. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's a story for another time, but I've had a lot of different things happen growing up with churches, and the church is not what determines your faith.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so many people think that. So many people think if you're not going to church every Sunday, you aren't a good Christian, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
That's the
I mean,
American way. That's,
exactly.
I think,
the church is not what
what they
determines your
instilled
faith.
to us.
I personally believe, whether Christian or not, you should be able to recognize this, that church is really the oldest, it's kind of the oldest scam that existed. Because do you actually know how much, at our age, do you know how much of your paycheck you're supposed to give to your church?
Yeah, it's like
It's like 17 or 18%
Yeah.
of your paycheck you're supposed to give to your church.
yeah, which is we were required to do that too as
Wow.
students.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me, because a lot of people with this whole coronavirus and the shutdown and no church and everything, I understand, but I guess I understand. You don't have to go to church to worship.
yeah.
Now, I do understand like fellowship and everything, because it's kind of that mob mentality takes over. Like, you have the support of all these people. You have all these people that are working together, and they all want the same thing. They're all working towards the same thing, and that's making the world better. And it gives you a good feeling being surrounded by those
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
and I get why people want to go.
Absolutely.
But I kind of maybe question the faith of the people who are upset that they can't go to church because they feel like they're losing the connection with God, when really the connection you have with your God or whoever it may be, that's between you and them.
Absolutely.
You don't have to go to a church to worship. You don't have to go to a church to pray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do understand like the mob mentality of fellowship. It is a nice feeling.
One of my biggest falling outs with the church, I went to this church from the point, one of my best friends growing up, I started going to youth group. I went there until I was, I think, a junior in high school. And what had happened was they had fired the youth minister that we had for so many years. And they had claimed they had to cut funds, blah, blah, blah. Well, about 3 months afterwards, they hired someone new. Well, we started to find out all these things. We had a new pastor. I went to this church years later for a Christmas service. And whenever I walked into this church, I kid you not, they had spent so much money on light and sound and the stage. It literally looked like a Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert.
I know which church he's talking about.
Yeah, if you're from Seymour, you probably do. And that was the day when I walked into that church for that Christmas service. That was the day that I decided that I don't feel like I need to go to this church
I
anymore.
do like their pastor though. He really hits hard on relationships, not only with you and your loved one, but you and your family. And I feel like relationships are really good.
Yeah.
We can talk about some stuff off camera about
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
But,
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, when you can go into church and you see that so much money has been spent on the stage and the production, and there's not a single cross in the sanctuary,
Yeah.
that's where I feel like my faith is more important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was raised somewhere between Catholic and Lutheran. I know they're
Okay.
completely opposite ends of
Yeah.
the spectrum, but yeah, for sure, yeah. But mom was Catholic, dad was Lutheran. I did spend a little bit of time in both churches, so I was raised somewhere in between growing up. I'm not proud to say this, but it doesn't affect me. It doesn't make me feel bad. I did really fall out with religion. I would say probably I was 15 and I lost my great grandmother, and that took a big
Were you
hit on
close
me.
with her?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
So she raised my mom.
Okay.
My mom's mom wasn't in the picture. My mom was raised by her grandmother. Awesome woman, German woman.
Mhm.
She born and raised in Germany. She fell in love with an American soldier. She came
We
over
should
here.
talk about that more later
Oh,
too.
definitely. She was
Yeah.
an awesome woman. Um, bless her soul. She is passed now.
Mhm.
She had 2 kids with a Jewish lover. And, this was during the Holocaust, Her
Okay.
best friend was caught feeding the Jews through the fence
Wow.
and taken away.
Wow.
My grandmother ended up falling in love with an American soldier who brought her over here, and I believe this is how broken my mom's side of the family is. I believe they had 4 more kids together, so that gave her a total of 6.
And this was just your great grandmother?
Yeah, this was just my
Wow.
great grandmother.
Wow.
She's the only person, everybody's like, oh, like I get angry and I start speaking this language. She's the only person who I truly believe she would just get angry and couldn't control speaking another language. She literally had no control, and she would be speaking to you in German, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, Grandma, I don't understand. And she had a real thick German accent.
Mhm.
She was an amazing woman. I wish that I would have been able to spend more time with her.
Mhm.
Not only spend more time with her, but spend time with her with the mentality that I have now
Yeah.
compared to when I was like 14,
Yeah.
But I think that might have been the driving factor in me losing faith.
Yeah.
And I did get really big into like Scientology.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't say that I'm a Scientologist now,
I
those,
hope
those
not.
guys,
God,
I hope not.
they
Dear
are
Lord.
far-fetched.
Have you
yeah.
not watched the freaking
Oh
Hulu's
my
documentary?
goodness.
So you're really going to have to redeem yourself right now.
I
after-
know. I'm going to get a lot of hate for
after
this
saying
episode.
you
But-
just got into Scientology here.
Well, I know. No, those
Tom
those
Cruise.
people are called, yeah. But I really did lose faith. I would say now, so I'm more like agnostic. There's definitely a higher power than us. But at the same time, the biggest thing I want to say about this is I know the Bible. I know the stories of the Bible. I know the Word of God. I can't stand to hear people say that they're like atheist or agnostic, and then they literally can't reference the Bible at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I definitely, even with I kind of regret saying this, to be honest, on episode 2, but
YOLO.
I guess, yeah. But just because I know a lot of people will judge me on this, but I do know the Bible, and I do think that the Bible is a very important book. I think that it gives you a guideline, no very least. I think a lot of the stories in the Bible did happen.
Absolutely.
It's just, for me, it's the factor of a God, a devil, heaven and hell.
One of
That's
the-
what it's really hard for me to get behind.
Yeah. One of the things with the Bible for me is there's so many lost books of the Bible.
Oh, definitely.
One of the biggest books that I believe is the Book of Enoch.
Enoch. I'm so happy that you know what that is.
Yes,
That
because
is
aliens,
wild.
Yeah.
Yes. Anubis.
not in there.
No, what do they call him? The Anakai or
You got me.
Is it the Anunnaki? Is that what you're thinking?
no?
I don't even know what that is, but I've heard that
Man, the
name
guy I
before,
work with would be so mad.
I want to cut you guys. Like, we're at an hour and 10 minutes, and I don't know if like our distributors have any kind of limits But like this podcast is going really good. So if
It is a really good podcast.
if we have to split this up into 2 episodes, I mean we can go for however much longer we need to. So
I'm gonna be honest.
I don't care. I don't.
Allie and I did have 2 topics picked out for tonight.
I
We
have
haven't
a couple
even
more
touched the
interesting things to
yeah.
talk about.
We never got to.
I have one story you haven't heard.
We need to do a second episode.
I mean,
sure.
we might be able to fit this. I mean, dude, if there's guys out there that can have 2 and 3 hour episodes.
There's one more really interesting story I have not told you.
Yeah, I mean, we're good. If we have to split it up, we can, but we might be fine.
Okay.
So
Well,
we'll do
we'll
it.
take that
Maybe I
risk.
could talk faster.
No, don't just go.
You
I
stay
mean, we're
yourself.
fine. We're fine.
We'll take that risk. It's
We'll
all
be
good.
done when we're done.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. This is
Okay.
about us right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the viewers, but this is
Yeah.
us.
So. Okay, back to me.
You
It's
said
all
you had a
Okay.
story.
The floor is
right?
yours.
Okay, so after Atlanta Leadership College, I found out, I posted my story on Facebook and it got a lot of attention. Then about a month, not even a month later, I find out that the co-director of the school, which is a male, got accused of having relationships with some of the male students. One in particular that, was brave enough to come out and speak about, and instantly this was a starting point of the downfall of Atlanta Leadership College. I heard a couple different things that, like, this co-director would have all of the first-year boys come over to his house, and he would force them to take their tops off, their shirts off, and pose and take pictures of them.
Wow.
And he was having secret relationships with some of the male students.
I'm sorry. Can you tell us one more time? This was who of the church? I know the name.
The second in demand of the school.
Second in demand of the school.
Yes, a
Second in
very
command.
high rank. He led my Africa
Now, was
trip.
he involved? Wow. Was he involved in this mega church that you guys were tied
Very,
to?
very involved. Very involved.
Okay.
His name was known.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm only not saying the
No,
names
I
for legal
completely-
purposes because there
exactly.
are legal things that are going on currently.
As there should be.
I've had
Exactly.
attorneys and lawyers reach out to me already asking for my story and my part against the director of the school. And
Well, if any of you that directed this school or were staff of this school hear this podcast, fuck the lot of
Yeah,
you.
fuck you. We do want to say a big fuck you.
Yeah.
not
Pardon
all of
my
them,
French.
Not all of them, because some of them have came out publicly and said, like,
No, I'm sorry, but still, even if they
Well.
fuck them because
yeah.
they didn't stop it when it was
Exactly.
and they should have
They
known.
could have spoke up.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
the same thing with
they were
the Nazi
full adults.
regime, and
Yeah.
everybody's saying, "Oh, well, these generals were following Hitler's orders."
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I get it. You're following orders, but you're still wrong.
We were
Absolutely.
all trying to impress this one person.
Yeah,
Who could be the best? Who could get up to her the most?
is that God mentality?
Yeah, and it kind of fucked with me a little bit in the head because she picked me to be her personal assistant.
Oh, I could understand
out of all
how.
all the students there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that would seem great.
And
Everybody's
she's
praising this
originally
person.
from Indiana, so I don't know if she connected with me through that or anything. When I tried to leave the school, she brought me into her bedroom closet. She got down on her hands and knees, and she put her hands like this, and she said, "Please, please, please don't leave. You can live here with me. You can have the entire basement," which was like an apartment, to myself. She said, "Anytime during your classes, if you feel overwhelmed, you can come to my office and just spend some time with me." And I'm like, that's not why I'm here.
She brought you into her closet.
She did. She literally did. Brought me into her closet.
Wasn't there a game
designer
like
clothes
But
and
why?
jewelry.
That's
like
my-
7 minutes in heaven? You know, that's kind of the vibes I'm picking up. I mean,
That's my question though, is why? Like,
you know, full disrespect to this woman. You
Here-
know,
that-
if the shoe fits, wear it, I guess.
I don't understand though.
but-
Like, so you said tuition was roughly $7,000. That's not a lot of money.
That's
Yeah.
really not.
So why did they want you to stay so bad? I mean, what's the end game?
I mean, I guess every dollar counted.
Really.
Really, really, every dollar counted for the.
What was their money going to? Do you know what they were doing with this money?
Well, as far as I know, the director had a freaking 3-story mansion of a house. The co-director
lining
had a
everybody's
very,
pockets.
very nice.
I've
Yes,
seen this
everybody
before.
was very well taken care of.
I have seen this before. I do a lot of
Yeah.
commercial roofing, flat roofs. You know, we work on slate roofs. So because we work on slate roofs, we go to a lot of churches. You know, and when it comes to us getting paid as servicemen, you know, we kind of see the impact that it costs to have your roof repaired, and we also see what what's the word? The accountant for the church. We see the vehicles that they pull up in.
Yeah.
You know, and then you start talking to them and you ask them what they do for a living, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm involved in this church, and I'm also a door greeter at Walmart." And I'm going to be honest, dude, and you know that a door greeter at Walmart cannot drive the 2018 Maserati pulling up to the church, and this is a person who's in charge of the finances for this church.
Yeah.
You know, like I said,
It happens all the time, even here, even around here.
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. I grew up faithful, you know. I spent a lot of time in church growing up. I really have tried to reconnect for my own, what's the word? For my own, I guess on my own accountability. Like, no one's pushed me. I have tried to reconnect with God. I have attended some church services. I've attended a couple of churches local to me, and I just don't like the people.
I'll tell you what, man. I was talking about the church I went to and how they spent so much money on production and everything, but the best church that I ever went to was my senior year, and right after my senior year, I went to this little church out in BFE here in around Seymour. They didn't have a lot of money. It was a lot of old people in the sanctuary, and it was personable. It meant something. When they got up there and they spoke the word, it meant something. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like they were just reading a script.
From their heart.
It didn't feel like they were reading a book. It meant something.
Yeah.
And that's the best church I've ever been to.
I can agree with that. I've been to a church plenty of times, more than a dozen. On average, they have about 33, 34 in attendance. They are in Comiskey, you know, out in the backwoods, Comiskey. It is a lovely church. The people are genuine. The word of God that is read to us, you know, they teach the Bible. They don't teach the pastor's interpretation of the Bible. They teach the Bible, and I do like that.
Yeah.
You know, because the Bible is good. Even me and my faith and my standings right now, I do agree that the Bible is very important.
Yeah.
And I really like this church, and they are Baptist. I don't necessarily always agree with the Baptist, but it's just, I agree. It is a smaller church. It makes you feel at home. It makes you really get to know everyone in that church. I mean, like, very well know them, and you can talk about anything, and they're an open book to you, and you're an open book to them, and that's a good feeling, because you really do believe that they want the best for you, and they're not just saying that because that's what God would want them to say, you know.
There is one thing I want to say. 2020, the year's kind of hectic, you know, everybody's gone through their challenges. Right now, I can say it's a really hard time for Christians. I can't even, you know, I used to post Bible verses and how I felt about the Lord and publicly talk about the Lord how I wanted to, and now I feel like I can't without someone, one of my close friends deleting me or getting some kind of crazy message.
Yeah.
This is the time of judgment. This is the time
It's a
of
weird
labels
This is
where people just they label you, based. We kind of talked about this on the first episode.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We talked about this. Social media is such a big
Definitely.
problem with
The biggest
America.
problem.
I mean, because
Not just social, but media.
Yeah, it allows people to say things and do things and not be held accountable or not have consequences for those things.
And
Yeah.
So, and I totally agree with what you're saying.
of course.
Because you post something on Facebook, and then someone's gonna disagree, and they could say something really nasty to you, and then they do all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is you have people sitting behind a keyboard saying
Yeah.
things that they would never say to your face,
Yeah.
and they're not held accountable for it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the same thing, the mom mentality. We talked about that in the first episode. It does apply online.
Yeah.
And then the labeling, I disagree. I'm a big, do not ever label yourself. Even if you are a Christian, I would never call myself a Christian.
Yeah.
Because once you put that label on you, now everybody who is a Christian, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, I know what a Christian is. This is what I expect of this person. And
Yeah.
everybody who's not a Christian, they're going to be like, oh, I know what a Christian is to me.
Yeah.
And this is probably how this person acts.
Yeah.
So you already, just because you put that label, and it's the same thing with politics. It's the same thing with anything you can think of, label yourself. Like sexuality, as soon as you put a label on it, people already have feelings because, hey, they said this is what they are, and this is what I think that means.
Yeah.
When in all reality, you don't ever have to label yourself. You're free to be your own person. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people have left that out. A lot
Yeah.
of people have forgotten how to be their own person because a lot of people are so comfortable with just, accepting okay, well, this is my label. This is what I am. So these people who are also labeled me is what I need to be, when it does not have to be that way.
Yeah.
You
Well,
can be a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And
In my eyes right now as a Christian, the main thing is love. To love everyone as
is.
they are, as they were born, as
Yes.
who they want to be. Whether that is black, gay, straight,
yes,
whatever you are born as, you should accept that person.
it's a human
no matter
being.
what.
In the words of Jackie Moon, everybody love everybody.
Everybody love everybody.
Everybody
Amen.
love everybody.
Amen.
A great movie if you guys
That-
haven't seen it.
And everybody love everybody, and that would solve all the world's problems.
It really would.
Honestly,
though. It really
In
would.
today's
Yeah.
society, that would solve everything.
But
Yes.
according to Christianity, that's the beginning of the end.
So.
According
So,
to Christianity,
yeah.
2020 is the beginning of the end because
Yeah.
damn, it has been a terrible year.
Well, it has been terrible, but
I'm wondering if
but
it's
we
the
still
first
haven't-
chapter of Revelations.
well, we haven't had peace in the Middle East, so
Yeah, you're
so
right, you're
you
right.
can be comfortable. But
Not one world domination yet.
exactly, yeah,
Ali-
we are working towards it though.
This has been great conversation. I know we haven't mentioned it. How I know Allie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so Allie is my brother's girlfriend,
Yes.
and she come into the family. It's funny, just to give a quick little insight.
By the way, I'm part of the family.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
hear that, Hayden?
Yeah.
So we were at a party one night. I went with Hayden, Seth, and Hayden shows me his phone. He's like, "You want to see this girl I'm talking to?" I'm like, "Yeah,
We
let's,
did the same thing.
yeah,
didn't we?
dude, let's see it." And he shows me Allie's picture. I'm like, "Nice, man. Like, how'd you meet her? You know?" And he says, "Well, I just messaged her on Facebook," and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And she messaged me back, and I was like, "All right, cool." And then next thing I know, like that next Friday or Saturday, or I think it was like during the week, she's having dinner with our family.
Yeah, here I am.
What? I didn't realize it was that quick.
Yeah, dude. It was like
He
a week
brought her
later.
around to the family that quick.
Yeah, it was like a week later.
Well,
And
dang.
Hayden messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, man, You want to come to Mom and Dad's for dinner tonight? We're having pizza, and this new girl I'm talking to, I'm inviting her, and you guys can all meet her. And I'm like, all right.
He
yeah.
was, man. I remember that night at that party. We were at our buddy Chase's,
Yeah.
and he looked like a fucking puppy dog who just found a bone.
I
You know,
love
he comes
Hayden.
up. He
I
comes
love
up. He's
him.
like, "Oh my God, dude!" He's like, "You'll never believe this girl that I found on Facebook. I've been talking
He'll
to her.
never admit it
She
now.
replied to me, and I'm like, what? Who is it? Show me." And he's like, "All right, I'll show you."
But no, for
He acted like it
real-
was a hassle to show me, right? And then he pulls up a couple pictures, and he's like, "Check her out. She's so hot."
But no, for real though, Allie has been like the best. She's been a blessing to the family, and she gets along so
She's an
well.
Don't
angel.
get me started.
You do. You,
I know.
you get
Don't
along.
start, please.
You get along with our family so good.
I've never had a relationship like this with someone's family before.
That's
and
great.
because of the school that I went through, it's been really hard for me to have a normal relationship with someone.
Yeah, yeah,
Hayden just accepts me
right.
so much for who I am.
Yeah,
You know, I don't have to try to be someone that I'm not around him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like we just generally get along so well whenever we're together, and
I'm glad.
I am so thankful for everyone that he has brought into my life now.
Yeah.
Like you two.
I mean, you've been great for him as well. So
Like we said when we said everybody love everybody, we're not joking.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, you know, I kind of regret spilling my my religious views and
that you're a
everything.
Scientologist. You
No,
fucking
I'm not.
traitor.
Do
Tom
not. Don't
Cruise
call me
lover.
that. Yeah, don't call me that. Jeez, don't call me that. I was misconstrued by what Scientology meant at the time.
You didn't
And,
watch all the documentaries
No,
yet?
no. What, Dan Bilzerian? Didn't he have one? Didn't he have one about like the sun? I might be.
I don't know.
Don't quote me on
Dude,
this.
I don't
might
pay
be
enough attention
completely.
to that shit to even know. Like, it's
I
so
have watched
fucked
a
up.
couple of them, but
There's one on Netflix that did like a story
I
about
watched
like
one back
the way
on-
that
on
all
demand.
religions revolve around the sun and 12 constellations and the North Star, which it makes sense. You know, you got the sun god, you got the 12 disciples, you got the North Star is what, the Messiah.
don't
I mean,
know.
it makes yeah. I'm gonna be honest. You know, your
I
whiskey
like to
might be
think I
getting
know,
to
but I
me.
don't.
Yeah.
Your whiskey might be getting to me. I do think that I'm correct on that. I guess anybody correct me if I'm wrong. You know,
I mean, this has been
we are open to criticism here.
absolutely. This has been a great episode.
This has been a great episode.
I feel like there's so many more things we
I
can talk
know.
with
There
Allie
really
about.
is.
I mean,
There really, I have.
We'll definitely have
I wish
to
I could tell you
schedule-
this one other story.
I mean,
You know,
we're an hour and a half in. I mean,
that's enough.
no,
No, I gotta
Do
pee.
we call it enough?
you gotta pee.
I do have to pee as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest.
We can call this one, and Allie, we'll
We
have
will
to-
definitely have you back.
Yeah, for sure. So before we go, Allie, plug your
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 media.
businesses.
Okay,
Your
so
business.
for my hair business that I have recently started up is on Facebook at Lavender Moon, just Lavender Moon. And for Instagram, I believe it is, let me double check here real quick.
By the way, she cuts my hair, and that shit's
Same.
tight.
Same.
Our hair looks good.
Absolutely.
Ali, Ali .lavendermoon.salon for Instagram.
Check it
So
out.
check that out, and I'll give you the best deals.
Yeah, give her a follow.
For sure.
Pay her. Tip her good.
Seth, you want to lead us out? Tell everybody the socials.
And also, thank you so much for having me today.
Of
Thank you,
course. No,
Alan.
we really appreciate you
It's
being
been
here.
great.
I get
It's
this
been
word
great.
out and speak for
Oh.
other people, you know.
Of course.
Absolutely.
I can't promise.
And
we have a
also,
lot
by
of
the way,
followers, but
The school is completely shut down now, so
Hallelujah.
yes, glad to hear that.
yeah.
Seth, you want to lead us out? Tell them socials. Tell them where they can listen.
Yeah, man. So I guess this is wrapping it up. I want to thank everybody for all the support we've had a lot lately. We've had a lot of support. It's really nice to know that many people care what I have to say, which you call it what you want, I guess. But again, check out Amcrest. Their cameras are awesome. That's what we use.
Yeah, this totally took our show to the next level.
Oh, for sure. We are professional, right?
We're getting there.
But yeah, check Ali out. Lavender Moon. She's awesome. She should write a book. And I just want to thank everybody again for all the support.
Yeah, check us out. Facebook, A Gentle Trip. Instagram.
We are on Spotify now.
Spotify. We're on Spotify. We're on Amazon. We're working on Apple right now.
Yeah, Apple's got a lot of restrictions.
But yeah, check us out. Give us a like. Give us a follow. And thanks, everyone.
And stay tripping.
Yeah, stay tripping.
Stay
Stay
trippy, y'all.
tripping. Yeah.